Hello guys, it's Carrie and Mike here again. We are on our back porch, sort of. As you can see, we're under construction. It's a really lovely time to have your house under construction when we're all trapped here. Atticus has opted not to be in the video today, and we are respecting his privacy. But we told him he'd be disappointing his many fans. He didn't care.
I just got out of the shower. It is 2:28 on a Sunday.
We're doing great.
So, yeah.
Today we wanted to bring you some books that we thought that the whole family could read out loud together, as some chapter books that the whole family could read out loud. And we'll show you the cover and then talk about maybe what ages we think it would be good for. So, anything else to add?
No, most of the ones I'm sharing, I think almost everyone that I'm sharing is something that I've read out loud to my class at some point. So,
and some of them we've read out loud to Atticus. Anyway, your pile is really far away. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to reach it. Oh, okay. Do you want to start?
I can.
This
is not a chapter book, so this is the only one we have that's not a chapter book, and this is a poetry book. But poetry books are really good for read aloud time, and this one is called I'm Just No Good at Rhyming, and Other Nonsense for Mischievous Kids and Immature Grown-ups.
So it suits us perfectly. Yes. I've read it to students at school too. It's very funny.
So I'm going to share just, it's very reminiscent of Shel Silverstein, but this is the title poem. I'm just no good at rhyming. It makes me feel so bad. I'm just no good at rhyming, and that's why I'm so
blue.
My teacher asked if I could find a word that rhymes with hat. It's something that a dog might chase. Aha, I said.
A car.
My teacher asked if I could find a word that rhymes with wizard. It's something small and with a tail. Aha, I said.
A puppy.
My teacher asked if I could find a word that rhymes with wall. It's something you might try to catch. Aha, I said.
A lizard.
I'm just no good at rhyming. I'm sorry, but it's true. I'm just no good at rhyming, and that's why I'm so
sad.
I'm pretty good with meter and with spelling and with timing, but I'll never be a poet because I'm just can't rhyme words at all. The end.
It's all pretty funny. We're big fans. The first one I'm going to recommend, we actually don't have a copy of it here. It's in Mike's classroom, and we're not allowed to go there. It's called The Season of Styx, Malone. It's by Kekla Magoon. This is a really funny and poignant book about brothers, and Styx Malone moves in, and he's like the king of the upsell. So he starts, what do they start with?
Something like a pencil.
A pencil, and he ends up with a motorcycle. It's very funny how he's like, well, I'm going to trade you this for this, and he always ends up with the better deal. And it's good. He's in foster care, which is why he's just moving in. I would recommend this. I'd say 3rd grade and up would enjoy this story. So, Season of Styx Malone by Kekla Magoon.
The first chapter book that I'm going to share with you is one that I love and Carrie has a hard time with. This is The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. And this is a story about a pet, not a pet, a toy rabbit that is loved by a girl named Abilene, and Edward does not love her back, even though he is a toy and cannot talk to her. But he winds up getting lost from her and going on a journey, and winds up learning what it means to love. And it is a really good read aloud. I read it to Atticus when he was probably 5. So I would say that age and up. And when I read it to my class, I had them bring one of their favorite stuffed animals while we were reading it. And so they brought it every day for our read aloud time. So it's a great story.
This is George by Alex Gino, and George is a 4th grader, and it says, when people look at George, they think they see a boy, but she knows she's not a boy, she knows she's a girl. And I really like this book to talk to kids about what it's like to be transgender. And George is just in 4th grade, so it's not really getting into a lot of the heavier topics. It's really just a good introduction. I actually recommend it for any ages if it's something that you have questions about. This is a really sweet book, a really appropriate book for kids. I would say we read it to Atticus when he was in, 2nd grade? So 2nd grade and up, if this is a topic that you're interested in kind of talking to your kids about, it's also just a really sweet story. George is adorable.
All right, this is book 1 in a series of the Sal and Gabi series, and this is Sal and Gabi Break the Universe. It's a Rick Riordan Presents, and so it explores mythology from different cultures. And this is, oh my goodness, I don't remember the culture.
I'll look.
Carrie will look. But it is really great, talking about like the multiverse, and it has a lot of like time travel-y and multiple universes going at the same time, and then they like mess with something and it messes up stuff, and it's really it's just a great story. It's
Cuban?
Cuban. It is Cuban. Thank you. And so I really liked it. I did not read this aloud to my students, but I did recommend it to several of my students to read.
Yeah, it's another good one if your kids have been into Percy Jackson, and have run out.
And it won an award.
Yes, Pour Belpre.
Yes, which is for Hispanic culture.
Yes. Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. This one's actually set in North Carolina. The author lives in Kernersville, Stacey McAnulty. And this is about a girl who was struck by lightning and becomes a math genius. And then her grandma said she can go to college, but her grandma says you can't go to college until you've gone to at least 1 year of middle school, which is all of our nightmares, right? And so it's funny, and she does a lot of service projects. The other reason I thought this might be a good hit with our church is that she's working a lot at the animal shelter, and that's a big kind of theme. So it's really cute, and local author, Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. I would say 4th grade and up for this one.
Yeah, I did read half of it to my class, and then we ran out of time, and they loved it. So it's really good.
It's been really popular at my school. She was going to come be at my school, and 3rd grade and up, a lot of them read it and loved it. I know Ruby read it. I think some of our Girl Scouts have read it. So
Next book, a nice light read called Ghost Boys by Jewel Parker Rhodes. I read this to my class 2 years in a row, and this is a book about a boy who is killed by a police officer, and
it's kind of a Tamir Rice situation.
Yeah,
he's playing with a toy gun,
and so it's told from where he is a ghost and has flashbacks to the day that he was killed, the events that led up to it. And it deals with a lot of learning about, help me.
Well, he meets the ghost of Emmett Till. He just learns, and then Thurgood Marshall. He has a lot of, he learns a lot about history of injustice. It's a good way to talk to your kids about that kind of injustice.
Yes, and deals heavily with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so my class,
I really like that book.
Both years that I read it, they absolutely loved it. It was their favorite book of the year.
I agree. It was one of my favorite books the year it came out. I do not read a lot of animal books. I do not really care for books with talking animals. So when I give this recommendation, you know it really is a good book. A lot of you have probably read it, but it's called The One and Only Ivan. It's kind of based on a true story, because there was a gorilla who lived in a shopping mall, who was kind of trapped there, and then was able to, the community kind of started being like, this is terrible. So it's from the perspective of the gorilla and his other animal friends. And it's a very sweet story about just friendship. And they make friends with one of the girls whose dad, I think, works in the shopping mall as well. But a really sweet friendship story. If you like animal stories, this is honestly one of the best, I think. The Newbery people agree with me.
All right, this is a book that I think is now like a Nickelodeon movie or series.
Something,
or something. Yeah. Mr. Lemoncello's Library. This is the first in a series of books. And it is kind of like Willy Wonka meets people who likes books.
Yeah, like clues. There's lots of puzzles.
So if you have read a lot of kids' books, there's lots of homages to those books in here. So it's great. It's fun. Read it to my class one year, and a lot of them said, this was my favorite book you read to us all year. So that was probably about 4 years ago when last time I read it to a class.
It's often on like Battle of the Books or Elementary Battle of the Books list, I guess, and the kids always enjoy it. This is another Newbery winner. Ours doesn't have a sticker on it, but it won 2 years ago. It's called Mercy Suarez Changes Gears. This is a really good family story about a girl. A lot of it is centered on her relationship with her grandparents. And then it's just she's in middle school, and so it's that transitional time. She doesn't feel like she fits in. She's kind of learning who she is. So it's kind of a quiet family story, but I think it would be a really good read aloud. I picked it too because it's a time that it's like really centers on the relationship with the grandparents, and this is such a weird time that our kids are separated from their grandparents. I feel like that's not usual in times of crisis, and this might be a good way to talk about our feelings about that. So this is a really sweet book, just a sweet family story that I think a lot of people would really like.
All right, this is a classic.
I mean,
it's Matilda by Roald Dahl, and it is fantastic. It's about a girl who is a genius and has terrible parents, and goes to school and meets a teacher who sees her for who she is, and it's great. And she also has magical powers, and so
as you do.
Yes. So just great fun.
Any Roald Dahl, but this would be our pick. Another Newbery, and Coretta Scott King, The Crossover by Kwame Alexander. He lives in Virginia. He is a poet, and all of this book is written in verse, so it's really fun to read out loud. And it's a poetry book about basketball, which if you're missing March Madness, maybe this is the way to go. This one's also, it's called The Crossover, with basketball, obviously, and then it's also about them. Twin brothers, and they're both on the basketball team. Their dad was a basketball player, and so it's also, they're in 7th grade. That's such a transitional time. So it's kind of about that, crossing over into being more of a teenager, being more independent for these boys, kind of breaking free of each other because they've been together, they're twins, and it's very competitive.
Girls.
Yeah, about relationships with girls. I have kids 3rd grade and up who enjoy it. I would probably say 4th grade and up, but it'd be really fun to read out loud.
And he did turn it into a graphic novel as well.
Yeah, it is a graphic novel. That would be really fun as well. I have that at my school. So The Crossover by Kwame Alexander.
All right. Speaking of Newbery and Coretta Scott King and poetry. Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline
Woodson. Have a bunch of stickers on it as well.
Yes. This is her memoir told in verse about growing up with moving from South Carolina to
Brooklyn?
Is it New York, or is it New York or Michigan? I'm not quite sure. But it's about that great migration and the moving back and forth in order to escape prejudices. And she wrote a picture book called This Is Road, which is I think what I'm thinking about when I say the Great Migration. But it still had that pattern of moving from north to south and north to south.
This one has good grandparent relationships too, and she's a Jehovah's Witness, so it's got a faith component that I think a lot of kids will relate to. It's beautiful.
Read it 1 year to my class, and they enjoyed it.
Always a hit with my students. I have 2 more. Mike has 1 more, so we're almost done. This is The Word That Saved My Life. I believe it was a Newbery Honor, so it should have a silver sticker on it. This is another one that I just thought was a good family story. This is about a girl. She has a clubfoot, and she lives in London. Her mother doesn't really take care of her. And then when the kids get sent out of London to the country because of the bombing during World War II, she goes to stay on a farm. She and her brother go stay with this woman who has ponies. And it's funny because it's it was a kind of a terrible thing that was happening, but for her it was a blessing because she was living in such terrible circumstances with her mother who didn't take care of her. And Mike said, and I love this book, I love the sequel even more, which I didn't even think. This is a really sweet story, kind of talking about the things that they went through in World War II with the rationing. I mean, we're not necessarily rationing, but the kids might be able to relate to, oh, we're not the only ones who've had difficult times. Sorry about that wind. Who've had difficult times. So, The War That Saved My Life, I really recommend, by Kimberly, Brubaker, Bradley.
Okay. My last recommendation is The Watsons Go to Birmingham by Christopher Paul Curtis. And this is set, it does say Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963.
It's
Let
set
you know.
in
1963, a family from Flint, Michigan heads to, is it Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, and Birmingham. Yeah, there we
I was
go.
like,
I'm like, yeah. And there's a very historical event that happens in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963 at a church.
Maybe you've heard of it.
And so it's centered around that. But it's about the family and the relationships, and you come to just enjoy the way that they get together and the banter between them. But it is centered around a very tragic event, and by the end, my kids who, when they read this, they're just their heart is pounding and they're crying because of just they didn't know this was a real event and weren't aware of it. So
Yeah, it's a good way to talk about history with your kids rather than just assuming that they know or are going to find out. It's a good way to kind of put things in context. All right, my last one, last but not least, is Sweet by, I don't actually know how you say his name. I think it's Auxier, maybe. And it
Jonathan.
Yes, it is about Jonathan, about a girl, and she's a chimney sweep in London, and she creates a golem out of the soot. Well, it is created, and so that's like her best friend, and kind of what they go through together. She's starting to get to be too big to be a chimney sweep because they had to use children because the chimneys were so narrow. So it's kind of shocking. When I read it, it reminded me a lot of Newsies, how they the chimney sweeps in this story kind of take on the bosses in the same way that Newsies takes on the papes. And then also I'm sorry. Just that story of friendship between her.
Pictures of Christian Bale.
And Christian Bale. Just picture Christian Bale. Young Christian Bale. And their friendship is really sweet. The magic in the story is really sweet, like magical realism. And as they kind of go through this experience together. This is a really sweet story. That's a lot of wind again. I'm sorry. And so I really like Sweet. It would be a great read aloud. We've not read it to Atticus yet, but it is on our list to read to him. So I would say, 3rd or 4th grade and up. So.
All right.
Sorry it's so breezy. Oh, we were going to recommend some audiobooks since Atticus didn't want to come on the camera. I was going to recommend 2 sets of audiobooks that he really likes. One is the Percy Jackson audiobooks. And the second was he really liked the School for Good and Evil audiobooks. That both of those series are audiobooks he's listened to and really enjoyed. Anything else to add? Thanks for coming on camera, bud. Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye, friends. We miss you.
Play baseball.
Play baseball. Get outside as much as you can.